Good morning, Bix Weir, roadtoroota.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee. All right. I've never seen Zero Hedge get something wrong. Well, maybe I have. When they tried to analyze the Road to Ruta comic books coming out of the Fed, they got it all wrong, 100%. But they made a mistake today, and I'm sure they'll go back and correct it. It wasn't a big mistake, but it kind of led to them getting a misinterpretation of what's going on with the repo, and let me explain. Repo crisis fades away. This is from Zero Hedge today. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Repo crisis fades away. For the first time, a term repo is not oversubscribed. The second part of that is true. It was not oversubscribed, but they drew the wrong data. Let me show you. It looks like year-end repocalypse that was predicted by Credit Suisse strategist Zoltan Pozsar is taking a rain check. Today's term repo saw 26.25 billion in security submissions. That is not correct. Yep, they got one wrong. But it's a slight error because they aren't talking about the term repo, they're talking about the overnights. They even put in their picture below, if you look at it. Anyway, let me keep going. Below the 35 billion in total availability. This was the first turn repo, meaning term repo that goes past January 1st. That was not fully subscribed. On Monday, there was 54.25 demand for 50 billion. That's all true. But then they put in the picture, and as you can see, maturity date January 2nd, but look at the total amount below. 31.26, not 26.25. 26.25 was actually the overnight rate, which is not a turn. The turn's a big deal. That's the end of the year. That's when they got to cook the books for the regulators. So they got it a little wrong, although they were correct that it wasn't oversubscribed. So they were just off by 6 billion. What's 6 billion amongst friends? But it led to the premise of the rest of their report here. As such, for the second day in a row, the Fed's term repo operation was undersubscribed. But what was notable about today's temporary liquidity injection is that this was the first term repo since the start of the Fed's emergency program that covered the year-end turn with a maturity of January 2nd that was not fully allotted. As shown in the chart below, the first 4 term repos were all oversubscribed. Now that is correct. They just got the number wrong. So I'll give them a break. I still like them. Although it stuns me that they don't understand the Road to Ruta theory. They did talk about the Wishes and Rainbow comic book as being some evil plot. They need to dig deeper into who Greenspan was, who Stephen DeVoe is. Come on, Zero Hedge, you're smarter than that. Give me a call. Send me an email, bix@roadtoroota.com. We'll have a little chat, a little heart-to-heart. As such, it now appears the banks have finally their fill of what they believe will be sufficient year-end liquidity, and all subsequent term repos will likely see a lower allotment of the Fed's 500 billion liquidity backstop. Here's some more things. There's more that happened. I think this was just for show. We'll get to the end of the year, and it'll be, I don't know if it'll be oversubscribed, but I do think we're going to hit nearing $700 billion total. And here's how I get there. Yesterday, there were a few things that happened that were a little out of the ordinary. And I was scratching my head a little bit saying, what the hell are they doing? So I did a historical search today and yesterday. Here we have today's. The overnight was 26.25 billion. This is the one they flip-flopped. And then the term repo, also the turn repo, was 31.26 billion. Now, what hasn't been posted yet, and will be posted later, is the reverse repos. I count the reverse repos. Why do I count the reverse repos? Because they are used to lower that interest rate. They are a tool. They are required. They are necessary to bail out the banks. On the overnights, reverse repos, I count them. Now, obviously, it's just overnight. So the overnight doesn't matter all that much because the next day it's completely different. But they all also turn. So they use the overnights to hide interest rates. And I think I was questioning yesterday because they did this. Reverse repo yesterday, $13.36 billion, where they end up buying back the treasuries from the market. And everybody scratches their head, why would they do that when they're selling off? It's to keep the interest rate low, because the next day they don't want people panicking with a rising interest rate. They're playing a game, and it's a ridiculous game. I'm surprised they even announced this stuff, truthfully. What's going on behind the scenes, who knows, right? But they did announce it, so I count it. So yesterday's jump, and the reverse repo is very small usually, less than $1 billion, maybe $1 billion once in a while. But 13, I think it's the second biggest I've seen since this all started on September 11th, 2019. All right, so yesterday they had a $13.36 billion term repo, or reverse repo, which was kind of odd. And then they do these tiny repos. I don't even count those because they're only like a couple $100 million. It's like they throw out money like it's nothing. It's because it is nothing to them. It's a computer click. The difference between $100 billion and $1 trillion to the Fed is 1 0 added to the end. That's all it is. That's the facade that's being ripped apart right now. But if you look at yesterday, they had a one-day overnight repo of 29.3, which I kind of thought that's a little light. And then they had a reverse repo of a normal 0.826, but they had a monster. Wait, that's the day before. This is 17th. Sorry. See, here's what happened. Yeah. So I was looking at this stuff saying 18th, 19th. So yesterday was not a big deal. But here's the deal. They had no expirations of term repos yesterday. If you're on the road to Ruta, all you got to do is if you're on the private road, look at my daily update on repos for December. You can just go to the private road. It's like the third one down for December 19th. You'll see what's going on. Also on the Patreon channel, I post this. I track it daily. I'm anal about that. So it did go down a little, but not much. It's at $425 billion that the banks need tonight, just tonight, to stay in business. And they're still all getting bonuses. Now, where's the outrage on that? The people bail out the banks, give them $425 billion just for tonight, and yet they still get bonuses. Jamie Dimon is going to get a multi-million-dollar bonus, and all his little plebes, banksters, are going to get their bonuses because they had a great year, even though the people are bailing them out every night. It is insane. Anyway, all this mishmash is corrected on the road to the data. Check it out. No, we're not slowing down. We're not increasing. There was some shenanigans going on with the interest rate with this reverse repo so that they can do this thing they did today. Now, we had an expiration, but they also added. And they added more, which was, I believe they added more. Let's take a look. In there, the big thing, the overnight is not that big a deal anymore. That's why it's down at 26 when a while ago it was at 100, right? Why is it not a big deal? Because everybody's ramping up for the end of the year. The banks don't even have to record anything anymore. After the 16th, they don't have to record anything on their books until the end of the year. That's when it counts. That's the number I think is going to hit $700 billion. That is the term repo, the overnight repos, the reverse repos, and the POMOs, the permanent operations. I don't count the little ones because it's not that much. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. But remember, you guys got to keep this in your mind. This repo stuff is just one of the potential pillars to fall. There are so many. There's bubbles in the stock market, the bond market. There's reverse bubbles in gold, silver, and cryptos. You have Europe falling apart. You got the Brexit. There's so many pillars that have to be artificially supported to keep this system going. Any one of them fails, all the rest go. So, no, it is not the most important thing, this nightly bailout. But it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop in December. It is broken and broken for good. It'll get bigger and bigger and bigger, probably get up to 700 billion, and then the next 2 or 3 days will drop down probably 100 billion to 600 billion. And everybody will say, oh, everything's fine, and then you'll see it ramping up again. My friend Clif has some data on that, which I talk about in the 123rd video I did on the timeline at the private road. Road to Root members, again, go check it out and join the private road. But here's another thing going on. Remember, this repo stuff's going on. It's getting bigger and bigger. And then we have Italian bonds tumble on fears of another government collapse is imminent. What's that going to do to the repos? Poo, 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 poo. All these banks invest in these high-yielding European shitty bonds. And we're seeing them collapse. And the Chinese companies, we're seeing them collapse. For years, reformers have been pushing for changes to the Italian government structure that would, among other changes, reduce the number of seats held by lawmakers. Back in October, Giuseppe Conte's coalition government voted in favor of a plan to reduce the number of lower house members from 630 to 400 and the number of senators from 315 to 200. That's what politicians do these days. If they don't get their way, they change the rules. Look at the American House of Representatives. I'll get to that in a second. The referendum can be held between April 15th and June 15th, but by insisting on the vote, Conte is raising the likelihood of a rebellion that could collapse his government, which is what the market's afraid of. And so it is that Italy's 10-year yield climbed 5 basis points to 1.39%, its highest level since August. 1.39% is nothing, but the system is so fragile, as they say on A Christmas Story. It's so fragile that they have to keep everything in line with derivatives, and it's all about derivatives. Doesn't matter what the bonds are doing. The derivative market is 100 times bigger than the bond market in the Italian bonds. And that goes for every single asset on planet Earth. The derivative market is 100 to 300 times. In the case of Litecoin, it's like 350 to 400 times. Because more Litecoin traded in the last 24 hours than has ever been mined. That is criminality at its finest, but that is a symptom of what Bart Chilton called it Ponzimodium. Everything's a Ponzi scheme. And it's the norm these days. That's why companies like Backed are allowed to flourish. Virtu Financial, the deep state criminal electronic trading firm, never lost a trade in like 6 years. Why? Because Vincent Viola, a Bernie Madoff offshoot, at the same time started his high-speed trading company, same time Bernie left the NASDAQ, Vincent Viola left the NYMEX. They both headed those operations, criminals beyond belief. Beyond belief. You want to take out the bad guys? Go take out Vincent Viola and shut down Virtu Financial. And you'll see the bad guys go boom, 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 boom. Just like it was a big hit to the bad guys when Bernie Madoff went down. Who was Bernie Madoff's only banker? In a $50 billion Ponzi scheme, it was actually $500 billion, but even the headline news was 50 to 65 billion. Jamie Dimon and JP, the only banker. Know your customer, right? KYC on Bernie Madoff. What happened to JP Morgan? Nothing, zero, nada. I think $100 million fine. I have a book on my bookshelf called. Let me grab it. Hang on a second. I can't see it. I use it so much it's almost worn out. JP Madoff. Go check that book out. You want to know who the criminals are? They're so easy to spot. I always laugh when people say, who are the bad guys? There's quite a few of them. But right at the top of the banking bad guy list, JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon. And if you're in precious metals, gold or silver, Blythe Masters. They're going down. How do I know? Here's the next article I want to talk about. Bank of England admits high-frequency traders hacked its press briefings. Now, first of all, the Bank of England hands out what they're going to do beforehand to their selective market makers. They're pissed now that somebody else got in on the action. And who was it? These criminals like Virtu Financial. It probably was Virtu Financial. Over the past few years, there have been numerous allegations in both the trading community and among the media that critical UK data releases were being mysteriously leaked ahead of time. Now, the Fed got busted for this too. Back in 2017, Reuters reported that unusual sterling moves often precede UK data releases, explaining that on 8 occasions over the past 12 months, the pound had moved against the dollar in the minutes before the release of the retail sales numbers, correctly anticipating the direction the currency took once the figures were published. They were front-running. Absolutely goes on all the time. Bank of England's pissed because it wasn't the people that they wanted to front run. They want others to front run, not the high frequency traders that got their hands on it or tapping the phones. They were tapping the phones of the Bank of England. It's like Trump. There has been true even. This has been true even when the retail sales data has gone against the Reuters poll market consensus, leading to speculation among traders about the possibility of leaks of information for its official publication. David Woolcock, chair of the Committee of Professionalism at the Association Campsite Internationale Financial Markets Association, it's a mouthful, a body representing foreign exchange dealers, said his review of the analysis suggested either that some investors were very good at predicting what the data would show, or it was being leaked. Looking at the chart shown to me by Thomson Reuters, it seems evident that either a very close correlation in private-public data has been discovered that is allowing traders to pre-position ahead of publication, or a leak of the numbers has been occurring. In a press release late on Wednesday, Bank of England would never admit this unless they're about to get busted. The Bank of England said that the following concerns raised with the bank. Quote, "We have recently identified that an audio feed of certain of the bank press conferences installed only to act as a backup in case the video feed failed has been misused by a third-party supplier to the bank since earlier this year to supply services to other external clients. This wholly unacceptable use of the audio feed was without the bank's knowledge or consent and is being investigated further." An audio feed of its press conferences to high-speed traders who hope to profit by acting on the government's comments before the rest of the world. Are they going to tell us who it is? Basically, it could be one of two things. One, guys they didn't want getting the information first, the high-speed traders were getting their hands on by tapping the lines. Or two, they're trying to cover their ass. Probably a little of both. But I want to know who it is. If it is Virtu Financial, that opens a huge can of worms. A mega can of worms. That's a deep state takedown. While the company that was behind the audio feed hijacking was not named, a third-party supplier is understood to be connected to the market news service that promises clients will gain an edge over rival traders in a field where getting information microseconds before others can generate huge profits. They were not named. There's only one company that fits that bill that they wouldn't talk about. It is Virtu Financial, which used to be called EWT LLC. Those of you who are on the road to rooting, you know exactly who EWT LLC is. They were one of the first participants, authorized participants, in both SLV and GLD, where everything else was the bank. Everything else was JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. All the others, except one strange company I investigated 10 years ago, EWT LLC, which turned into Virtu Financial. Hello, Vincent Viola. Vinny, as his friends call him. That would be huge. If they announced that it was Virtu, this is that company that hasn't had a loss in like 10 years that tried to go public, got rejected, and then ended up going public because the deep state needed them to go public. Very scary stuff. Highly involved in cryptocurrencies. You want to know who's rigging the market? Why Litecoin trades 350 times the amount of Litecoin that has been invented every year, 350 times the total float? Virtu Financial. Vincent Viola. And Donald Trump named him to be the head of the Navy? What? Got rejected by the good guys. Anyway, that's our government. It is all a huge Ponzi. Get your asses out of all markets, all exchanges. Now is the time. I don't care if the price goes to zero. It probably will. But it doesn't matter. All these prices are fake. Everything is fake. And here's the latest fake. This is classic. So they impeached Trump in the House. But they're afraid the Senate might get it and expose what they did, the criminality they used. So they're not handing over the information to the Senate for trial. Nancy Pelosi has suggested she will delay sending the articles of impeachment to the Senate in order for Democrats to build up more evidence against Trump and delay the swift acquittal. They know that if there's a trial in the Senate, that people like Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, all these people, and Adam Schiff will be required to testify. They can't have that. So they're just going to hang on to it and say, oh, we never turned it over to the Senate. Here's the funny thing. The Senate can say, fuck you. Who cares if you turn it over? We're going to hold the trial anyway. What? That's breaking the rules. No, there is no rule. The Senate can do whatever they want. That's the Senate. They want to change, just like the House. The House changed all the rules. The Senate can change all the rules. They can play the same dirty game that the Democrats played if they want. You don't even need to, truthfully. You could just release all the data about Adam Schiff and the Standard Hotel, and you're done. And it opens that can of worms about all those criminals in Congress or all the other criminality. Trump should just release all the documentation. Rudy Giuliani is probably going to release all the documentation on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. You know what it was? That $1 billion that was going to the Ukraine, it was being shoveled right back into the pockets of the Obama administration. Hunter Biden was getting it. Joe Biden was getting it. Obama was getting it. It was a U.S. bailout of U.S. criminal politicians. What do you think what was it, $300 million or $300 billion? Don't even remember how much it was that we gave to Iran. $3 billion? That got shoveled right into the pockets of the deep state for the resistance. It is sad. It is embarrassing. But that's the world we live in. All right. I just want you all to think about this one. Clif has been talking about the new economy, the space economy. He said it's going to be a monster in 2020. Cryptos are going to play a huge role in it. Bingo. Huge Clif High Webbot hit. Stephen Quast. Kwast. Quast. Stephen Quast. You gotta watch this video. It's a lecture for 1 hour. This guy is brilliant. He has worked in the U.S. Space Force. He just quit, basically because the bad guys were going to take him down, I think. He says, we have to wake up about what's going on in space or we will lose to China, who's already catching up. It is an amazing discussion. You gotta watch it. I will put the link below this video. It's called Stephen Quast, Kwast, The Urgent Need for a U.S. Space Force. That is the future, and that is where we're going. Clif High's data is exactly spot on again on that. And cryptos play very highly in that world. Go watch that. It is 1 hour, half an hour lecture, and then half an hour Q&A. And it talks about technology and the ability to go into space. We already have it. He was holding back stuff. I hear he quit because he let too much information out, but he knows the people in Congress have to be on the side of this to catch up to China. He says, we have better technology, but the Chinese are playing the 100-year game. We have to play the 100-year game. We can play the 50-year game and beat everybody because profits, and he says, don't do it through the government. Do it through private industry. And you can profit from moving into space. Exactly what Clif High was saying in his Webbot. This is a huge Webbot hit. And Stephen Quast is going around to all the politicians now, and he wants to spread this information to the Americans. to everybody, to the world needs to know the future of economics is in space. Free energy from space. Very easy to do. Focus the sunlight into solar grids on space and planet Earth and other ways. So many technologies we can get from going into space. And we can do it, and it's easy. We just have to focus on it's kind of like the invention of the car. He talks about all the huge jumps in innovation that happened, and it's the early it kind of goes against my theory about the Tesla car. I'm like, why would they have automated cars when they're crashing into everything? It's not ready. It's the people who take that first step that get miles ahead in the future. So yeah, I think the Tesla automated car has to happen, even if it doesn't work that well, because it is a springboard for going faster and faster into the future. And we have to beat China at that if we want to maintain any kind of economic dominance. I wouldn't even call it dominance. We can, if we are the best in space, we will win in the future. And our ideals will be transferred into the future. Unless we want communism, the Chinese way, to take over space and our future. I'm a capitalist. Leaving the American way. I'm just sick to my stomach about what we're doing to the market. Anyway, go check it out. Stephen Quast. Watch it like 4 or 5 times. There's a ton of great information. And there's your repos for December 19th on the private road. Go to the private road, check it out. It explains everything. And go to roadtoruta.com for all your information. Subscribe today for the timeline articles, timeline posts, YouTube videos, 3 of them. And I will be doing more as we get to the end of the year. So check out a membership at the Road to Ruta. All right, you guys, that's kind of a long one. I'll talk to you guys later.